Hi Cooler, hi King Cold, it's nice to see both of you, and I made it clear a long time ago that you could both do whatever you want so long as you don't harm anyone on my Earth and planet Vegeta and you don't try and destroy our planets. I have no problem with you doing whatever you want in the cosmos, but you both never visit us and I'm a bit hurt and offended because you have grandkids now, King Cold. And then that's when my twin daughter and son showed up, both of which are mine and Frieza's children, and I said your grandchildren are extremely powerful. They were born powerful thanks to my perfect Saiyan genes and your daughter's perfect cold demon genes. We created the perfect offspring, and I said, son, would you like to demonstrate your powers to your grandpa and your uncle Cooler? And then they both demonstrated their mastery of ki energy. They could make swords and different shapes with ki energy, and their ki could even completely heal someone if they wanted to. And Cooler and King Cold said, fascinating, so these are your children. I see they are powerful hybrids that also have the ability to shape shift into humans and black cold forms. And I said you can measure their power levels if you want to, but they might be too big to measure. And they both said that's one reason why we are here, Goku. We are here to ask for scouters that are invincible and can measure any power level no matter how big. And I said, interesting, do you want a wish, Cold and Cooler? And I said, how about immortality, King Cold and Cooler? And they both said, no thanks, we paid a visit to Namek and we both got immortality from their eternal dragon Purunga. And I said, interesting, did you kill any of the people there? And they said, no, we didn't until they attacked us. It was self-defense, you understand. And I said, I see, so I don't care about that, but I can do your wishes. You can ask my Dragon Balls for whatever you want within reason, of course. And they both said thank you, and I said, my pleasure, you're welcome. And Cooler walked up and shook my hand and said, I haven't met you yet, but I'm glad my sister married such a strong man and king. And I said, your words honor me. Now do you want your wishes? And they said, yes, of course. And I snapped my fingers and my Dragon Balls appeared instantly, and I said, mighty dragon Shenron, come forth and grant our wishes. And Shenron exploded forth from the Dragon Balls, and the sky went dark, and a large green dragon with the infinity symbol on his chest and head came out and said, I am the mighty dragon Shenron, speak your 7 wishes and they will be granted, and you may wish for anything you want. And Cooler said, oh, I never get tired of hearing those words, do you, father? And then they wished for the most advanced and invincible scouters that could measure any power level, even measures God Ki. And then Cooler also got an invincible hovering pod like Frieza's in the TV series, and they both wished to be taller and grow naturally. And I said to myself, what is it with this family and being taller? And I said, okay, you know, you guys could train certain muscle groups to become taller, right? You both just need to stop being lazy, because you could both just train and become incredibly strong and tall that way, rather than wasting a perfectly good wish on something you could have done yourselves through training certain parts of your body. And Frieza laughed and said, they don't like training, my love, it's very strenuous for them and our kind. It's also very painful and frustrating because the cold demon race gets stronger every time they train, that's how they get stronger. And then I laughed and said, well, that's interesting, because our son and daughter has been training for millions of years. And I laughed like a villain and a maniac. And then Cooler and Cold said, your dragon is powerful, it grants 7 wishes instead of a few wishes, how interesting. And then they both wished for invincible spaceships big enough to house armies, and even a large training center and gym, even has many bedrooms with showers and bathrooms enough for large armies. And then they stayed on Earth for a great feast with me and Frieza, and they talked to me about everything that happened in the last 20 years that me and Frieza trained, and she even achieved a new, more powerful transformation. And Cooler and King Cold seemed visibly upset and jealous when they found out how many wives and children I now have. And I said, well, you could both get wives for yourselves, it's not impossible. Also, I know your race could reproduce sexually and asexually if you desire to do so. And I said, me and my race reproduce sexually. Unfortunately, we can't reproduce asexually, but I'm going to look into that flaw of ours very soon. And now almost all the good humans on this planet are very powerful cyborgs. Just thought I should let you both know that, Cold and Cooler. And they said, interesting, did you ask your eternal dragon Shenron to turn the human population into powerful cybernetic android hybrids? And I said, yes, I did.